Alright, buckle up, because today we're diving into one of the strangest, silliest, and most overlooked British comedies of the 1970s, Rentadick. This 1972 film is a slapstick spy spoof caper filled with eccentric characters, secret agents, mad scientists, and a plot that, well, let's just say it's all a bit bonkers.
Meanwhile, the Japanese had got into the factory, pretending they were an official delegation.
But how did this oddball comedy come to be? Who was involved? And why has it practically vanished from public memory? Let's break it all down. First things first, what's Rentadick actually about? The film follows businessman Geoffrey Armitage, played by the ever-dignified Donald Sinden, who owns a laboratory that has developed a highly dangerous experimental nerve gas. To protect this top-secret formula, he hires a security firm, Upton Security, run by the blustering Major Upton, played by Ronald Fraser. He also hires them to keep a watch on his wife, Uta, played by Julie Edge. Armitage is convinced his wife is involved with other men. Sounds like a solid plan, right? Well, not quite, because two of Upton's own men, Simon Hamilton, played by James Booth, and Miles Gannett, played by Richard Briers, aren't exactly loyal employees. While they're supposed to be guarding the lab, they've secretly been hired by a group of Japanese agents who want to steal the nerve gas for themselves. So, instead of stopping the robbery, they're actually making sure it happens.
In a firm not far from here, the Armitage Chemical Company.
And just like you'd expect from a detective agency in a film like this, their operatives are completely incompetent, leading to a series of ridiculous and slapstick-heavy mishaps as they attempt to recover the stolen nerve gas. The film plays out like a mix between a James Bond parody and a classic British farce. And just when you think it can't get any more absurd, cue Julie Edge as Uta Armitage, Geoffrey's glamorous but enigmatic wife, who inevitably adds more chaos to the mix.
Eleanor, put the old curtains back in the chest, please.
Then there's Ronald Fraser as Major Upton, because every self-respecting British comedy needs at least one eccentric ex-military officer.
Hamilton! Yes, sir. Were you in Armitage's house when you telephoned me last night?
And let's not forget Madame Greenfly, played by Chin, whose role in the film adds another layer of outlandish espionage antics.
You know what they say about Oriental woman?
Plus, there's a blink and you'll miss it cameo from none other than Spike Milligan, playing, you guessed it, an eccentric customs officer.
If you're indisposed, sir, will you please take a glass of water?
Now, you might be thinking, how did this film come to be? Rentadick had a pretty interesting behind-the-scenes story. It was directed by Jim Clark, who was better known as an editor. In fact, he edited The Killing Fields and The Mission, both of which were a far cry from this slapstick adventure. But here's where it gets really interesting. The original script was written by Monty Python, legends John Cleese and Graham Chapman. That's right, two of the greatest comedy minds in British history were originally behind this. However, their script was heavily rewritten by other writers, and they were so unhappy with the final version that they had their names removed from the credits entirely. Boom, a Python project, lost to history. The film was shot in various locations around England, though specific details about where exactly remain a bit scarce. What we do know is that it aimed for a mix of suburban British charm and over-the-top espionage ridiculousness. Think Carry On Spying meets The Avengers.
Hello, sailor. Happy landing.
If The Avengers was directed by a slapstick enthusiast. So, how did Rentadick do at the box office? Well, not great. The film didn't exactly set the world on fire. It was released in the UK, but never really gained much traction beyond that. Unlike other British comedies of the era, it never developed a strong cult following, and today, it remains one of those obscure films that even die-hard British comedy fans might not have seen. Critically, it didn't fare much better. Reviews at the time weren't exactly glowing, with many critics finding the humour too chaotic and the story too disjointed. Without the clever polish of Cleese and Chapman's original script, it felt like a missed opportunity. That said, for fans of slapstick comedy and absurd spy spoofs, Rentadick is still an interesting watch. It's packed with familiar faces from British film and television, and it has that classic 1970s charm with over-the-top performances and a plot that spirals further into absurdity with every scene. It may not be the best British comedy of its time, but it's a fascinating piece of forgotten cinema history, one that serves as a glimpse into what might have been if Cleese and Chapman's original vision had made it to the screen. So, what do you think? Have you ever seen Rentadick, or is this the first time you're even hearing about it? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into classic and forgotten films.
What's happened? They've sent the wrong equipment.